How you going, Stephen? Nice to see you, my friend.
I'm very good, thanks. And lovely to see you too.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Stephen, and your work. I know you do some fantastic things helping people.
Yeah, it goes back a long way. Unfortunately, I'm slightly older than 21, although I keep telling everyone I'm 21.
I wouldn't have known.
I'm an optician by profession. I've worked in many leadership roles throughout my life, both in business and in life in general. And it was back in 2006 that I was on a Tony Robbins event. It was Date with Destiny. So I'd done a couple of UPWs and I decided to go through Tony Robbins University. And this is where I discovered goal mapping, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But that was part of my journey in the self-development, personal development area. I'd done various different work throughout my life, and in the early 2000s, 2004, I went to a UPW with Tony Robbins, and this sort of shifted me around my way of thinking. In 2005, I left the UK. I made a choice that I wanted to leave. Tony Robbins, I think, guided me and gave me the power, and certainly there were certain other things in my life at that time. And I moved to Russia. I got job hunted. I spent 11 years in Russia, in Moscow, Russia, working there, still in the eyewear business, with a couple of very successful companies there. And then along came some situations that we're a bit more aware of now, but in 2012, 2014, I was very aware of what was going on now, was coming. So I moved my family, and we now live in Barcelona, just outside of Barcelona, Spain, by the sea, which is another story, but that's very much where I wanted to be. And since moving, I've sort of shifted out of the eyewear business and into learning about conscious capitalism and going a little bit deeper with other areas of personal development, and then bringing those to businesses and individuals to make the world a better place, which is really my purpose and passion.
So it's a great story of your journey, Stephen, and we've met up loads of times over the years, often in the workshop in London. How do you find it combining goal mapping with the other things you teach, like conscious capitalism? And what's the difference you want to make in the world for people?
Two good questions there. So bringing goal mapping into the work, although I probably was doing the work with goal mapping before I got into the conscious capitalism arena, and then it was finding, okay, how does this fit in with what I'm learning? And what I was learning was, well, conscious capitalism has four main tenets, and the first one is higher purpose. Second one is conscious leadership. The third one is stakeholder orientation. And the fourth is conscious culture. And this is something that when you bring these four elements into a business, it really does shift how the business is being run, from a company that's only focused, in the words of Milton Friedman, only existing for the power of the shareholders and owners of the company and to make money for them, into a more stakeholder orientated environment where we look after community, we look after the company, we look after everyone, and the value is for everybody, all stakeholders, rather than just for the shareholders. But of course, the shareholders get it as well. And as I mentioned, the first tenet of that is higher purpose. And what I found was, by using goal maps, it was a great way to sit with a group of people in a company or a business or individuals to find their purpose. Because when we do a goal map that's a life goal map, because obviously you can do them very short ones around a specific job that you're doing or something specific that you want to do. But if you make that general life one, or if you do it for a company, you make it about the company's life. What is the central goal is really your purpose. I've found this so many times that when people really think about it, they produce that central goal is their purpose in life. It's the guiding force, it's the North Star, and then everything else builds around it and helps you focus on how you can make your central purpose, your life purpose, become the focus of everything you do, and also tied into everything you do. And this works with businesses as well as individuals.
Find your purpose, find your power.
Absolutely.
Is your experience that when you've worked with businesses, they're clear on things like their mission, and their goals, but they haven't spent so much time thinking about purpose?
Yeah, I find that most companies think their mission is their purpose, and I liken this to the Golden Circles talk that Simon Sinek did, where he talks about leading from your why. And when you lead from your why, I look at it that our why is our purpose. Then how we do things, how we get there is our mission, and what we want to achieve is our vision. But above that lies our purpose. It's the guiding force, and it's really the why, the reason why we set up this business, the reason we get purpose, our reason for living. And I really believe that that's very prevalent in all businesses, that when they find their purpose beyond making money, because yes, of course we need to make money, but a little bit like the body needs blood to stay alive, but our purpose is not to produce blood.
And your purpose?
My purpose, well, this came around actually when I was talking about my first goal map, and I can go into that if you give me a couple of minutes, because it's a great story.
Would you like me to show it? Because I think is this it?
This is not my first one. This is my current goal map. So that's the 2023 one. But my
hold back on that one for a minute.
Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of it. It was done in 2006 at Date with Destiny, and I didn't know I was doing a goal map at the time. And I did this goal map, and it was fantastic, all the pictures, and we were taught how to do it. And later on I discovered when we met that yes, indeed, you sort of were teaching that, and that was ever present within the Tony Robbins world at that time. And I did this goal map. It was a 10-year plan. It was very materialistic. It had me living by the beach, having a nice car, family, nice home, all of these different things that we want in a material world. And I achieved them 10 years later. And I was working with Tony Robbins at the time. I was bringing people from Russia to Tony Robbins events. And I was asked to share what was important to me, what I learned from Tony Robbins. And this goal map just flashed up. I said, wow, 10 years ago, I'd done this goal map. I'd done this plan, or I'd done this map, I didn't, as I said, hadn't met you yet, so I didn't know it was a goal map, but I was telling these guys that I'd done this, and 10 years later, everything came true, and it was amazingly strong. And this is the power of Tony Robbins. And this was one of the powers that he had. And then, of course, I looked into it, delved into it deeper. We've got our mutual friend, Carl, introduced me to you, Carl from the we then met, and I realized that this is something that I had been using, even though we hadn't met, and I was desperate to learn more. And thank you very much, because you held my hand through the learning process, and gave me all that power. But I really believe that that was a very important stage. And at that meeting, when I realized that I got this 10-year goal map had worked, someone asked me, what was I going to do for the next 10 years? And for some reason, my mouth opened, and I said, I'm going to be a catalyst for world peace. Now, don't ask me why I said that. I know that when I look back, that's something that I've always been working towards. I've always looked for more peaceful scenarios. I've always looked to remove conflict from my life, but remove it from the world, and bring people into a more harmonious way of living. So it was a really important step up for me. And that's what brought me into things like learning about meditation and going on to India with meditation groups. I discovered conscious capitalism through that. And that really redirected me when I made that decision that was my purpose. I had a new purpose, or a new higher purpose that was no longer materialistic.
A deep sense of commitment and feeling within you, I expect, Stephen, that surfaced as you've been on your personal development journey. What are your goals for the future?
My goals, well, now you can bring up my current goal map. I mean, I'm working to on basically around the conscious leadership. I'm a public speaker, so I want to share as much information around peace, longevity, harmony, and the fact that the world can be a better place than it is at the moment if we shift the way that we lead, certainly within companies, but in governments and countries as well, and also within the home. So if we change how we lead, then we become better leaders, and we produce better followers, and the followers become leaders in themselves, because that's the power that we empower them with, and everything becomes a much more harmonious place to live. And once we see that, then we'll see a much more peaceful place, because when things are in harmony, it's much more peaceful.
What are your plans in terms of going forward? You have your map there, but I know that you both like to coach people as well as to make presentations. You're a good keynote speaker. Who are the people that you most have a passion to help in the coming years?
Probably say small to medium, but also large size business people, because I feel that that's where you can have a large effect there. If we go to governments, they tend to be tied up in a lot of bureaucracy, and they don't see the opportunity to change, because they're usually the people who are leading in governments are only on a short tenure, and they know that they have to produce things there and then, and they don't really think about the bigger picture. This is what I feel and I've found and experienced. Whereas within businesses, they generally can be looking for a bigger future, and therefore I'm looking for business owners, C-suite level, and those sort of founders who are looking to produce something that's going to be a more conscious way of doing business, and take into account all the environment and all the things that a lot of people are talking about at the moment, but not necessarily really buying into. So we want to get rid of the greenwashing, or whatever you want to call it, and get people to actually not just act upon what they're saying, but really believe in it and see the benefits that it can bring for both themselves and all their stakeholders.
And what's the most pleasing goal that you've helped someone else achieve using goal mapping?
I think the one that always resonates well with me is there was a young lady that I was working with. She was this was during the COVID period. She was a hairdresser. She was struggling. She's from Eastern Europe, living in the UK, and she was going through a lot of struggle. And we sat down and did a goal map. We were doing some work together at the time, and 3 days later, so I didn't actually, she hadn't even got that far that she'd shown me the goal map yet. She was still working on it. She called me up 3 days later and said, I can't believe it. I put in, one of my goals was about getting some land or getting a new home back in my homeland, where she came from. And this was something that she put down. And during those 3 days, she got a call from her mother to say that a patch of land had come up near to where they lived. It was available, was within the price range that she was looking, and she actually went ahead and bought that land. And now, you know, this was going to be her future home, where she was going to live and spend her time. So it was wonderful that she'd done it, and she called me up. She said, I can't believe it's happened so quick. It's like it's voodoo. And I said, no, it's not voodoo, it's what you do.
That's a nice line.
It was really, and that just came to me, but it was such a pleasure hearing that from her, because she just couldn't believe how it could happen so quickly. And I said, well, you know, it can happen 10 years, 1 year, 3 days. It doesn't really matter.
Sometimes really fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And for yourself, what's the most pleasing goal you've achieved with goal mapping?
I'm still working on it. I think, you know, a lot of things that I've achieved in my, you know, as I say, a lot of them were materialistic. I've moved away from that, and I'm achieving a lot of things around that current map. So particularly in my speaking world, I'm going to be speaking at the end of this in a big event in November in Barcelona with the PSA of Spain, Professional Speakers Association, and yeah, getting more work and achieving what I wanted, what I set out to do a few short years ago, and really shifting my whole lifestyle and business lifestyle from what I was doing and very successful at, to a new career, basically, that I believe that I am very successful at still.
And then we have a lot of people that watch the recording, plus we're live streaming tonight. And if you had a microphone out to the world, Stephen, what one message would you like to share?
Well, especially pertaining to tonight, but it would be whether we were talking about goal mapping or anything else, I would just say, believe in your dreams, because they can come true. Everything started with a thought. So bear in mind that everything started with a thought and then progressed to being reality. So if everything that's produced started that way, why can't your dreams be the next thought that you produce into a reality?
That's a lovely thought to finish with. And if people want to contact you, can see your details behind you there, your email address, plus you're in the coach profile, and I think all the details are up to date there for you as well. Thank you so much for joining. I think you're in the UK at the moment, visiting family and friends.
Correct, yep. But usually out in Barcelona or just near Barcelona.
Give my love to Carl when you see him.
I certainly will do.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. Take care, mate.